No, ex-military. Works for an NGO now. You got him on the line? Exactly. He's on the ground now, actually. I should really, get back to it. Of course. Go ahead. Oh, and Kate, send me a note later. Thanks.
Hello, Nathan? Sorry to keep you waiting. My editor. Where were we?
Hey, you were asking about the guy, the one that went back there, the guy that
Ah, that's right. And did you know him well?
No, not really. He worked maintenance on our trucks.
He was employed by IDAP.
No, nothing like that. I mean, he just helped us out a few times, off the book stuff. Guy was a local mechanic, family business type thing, you know.
I see.
I remember he had a place on the edge of town, not far from our setup. We'd chat from time to time. He's a nice guy, friendly.
And do you know where he was going that day?
To the church.
He was going to church.
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, that place had been abandoned for almost a year. But he was looking for his brother.
At the church?
Yeah, there'd been reports of, pretty brutal firefight up there. He'd heard his brother might have been caught up in it.
Sure, but... And I'm not quite clear on this. Was his brother still alive?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think he knew either. Seems like he was on his way to find out.
So, his brother, he was in the army?
Yes and no. It's complicated. You gotta remember it was pretty chaotic back then.
Of course. Okay, let's back up a bit.
Sure.
What complicated the situation?
Just the history of it all. His brother had been a recruit in the Altus Armed Forces, boot camp, basic training, you know. Well, this is back when NATO was still keeping the peace. But after U.S. forces pulled out, apparently he deserted.
Do you know why?
No, I know they argued a lot about it.
Was he upset that his brother had deserted?
Oh, no, he was no fan of the government. I mean, by that time, very few people were.
What, then?
I think he was just, I don't know, sick of all the violence. Didn't want to see his brother get caught up in all that.
In what?
More bloodshed.
You say bloodshed? You mean with the guerrillas?
Our, resident non-state actors. His brother had become dead set on joining the cause.
I see. And that brings us to the church. The firefight?
Yeah. U.S. forces were invading. The guerrillas were finally on the front foot. You can imagine the mess.
I've seen the pictures.
Right. It was more than just that, though. All those competing factions, people just disappear in that kind of chaos.
Duro, ¿eh? Nos hemos puesto en la piel de un civil que va ahí caminando por el campo y se pisa una mina. La historia de muchos. Bueno, bueno.
Hello? Kate speaking.
Hey, sorry about that. Call must have dropped. The network out here is garbage.
No problem. It's understandable. Are you still driving?
Yeah, we're not at the town yet. Hold on a sec. Andy, we almost there.
We're, a little ways out. Oh, and we need to make one quick stop, too.
Thanks, bud. So, where'd we get cut off?
You were telling me about the church. The landmine? The accident.
Right, yeah. Well, of course, a civilian casualty like that, particularly, at a church, I guess it kind of refocused our attention here.
Had IDAP been particularly active in the area?
Yeah. I mean, our project had a handful of camps spread across the country. But yeah, I was in the town itself for a few months. It's all different now, though.
How so?
Well, for one thing, IDAP used to be based right in the heart of Rio Castro. Of course, this was all pre-war. I remember, at that time, the local military maintained a checkpoint on the outskirts of town. That was understandable. I mean, the whole area was a kind of Wild West. Big mashup of civilian and guerrilla infrastructure. Disaster waiting to happen, really. I don't know. It's strange to see our camp based there now.
Hey, sorry about the holdup. We're on the way now.
All right, thanks, Andy.
So, what's your role there today?
Now, in general, the provision of aid. There was a lot of damage. IDAP fills the gap. Drinking water, basic medicine, post-war cleanup, in other words.
And on the ground, how does that translate to your work?
It's a mixed bag, like today. Part demining, part unexploded ordnance disposal.
I see.
Heads up, Mac. Almost there.
Got it. I'm sorry about that. We're arriving now. Give me a sec.
All right, Mac. That's your stuff all laid out here.
Hold on just a sec, Kate. I need to get set up.
Take your time.
All right, then. You got everything? Detector working? You, remember how to switch it on, right?
Yeah, I got it, Andy.
Then you're all set.
Thanks. So for now, I'll just make a note of where the mines are.
Yeah. Take it slow, Mac. We'll let the Bobcat do the heavy lifting later.
Ahora vamos a desayunar. ¿Qué quieres mirar la carretera o cómo va? Ahí. No sé subir nada.
Hey, sorry, I forgot to mention, the demining toolkit, totally forgot to pack it up this morning.
That's no big deal. We're just locating the mines for now. Just keep me posted.
Are you free to talk, Nathan?
Sure. For now, I'm just sweeping the road for mines, getting a lay of the land, The detector lets us see what we're dealing with here. I can work and chat.
No, hay que jugar con el GPS. Uy, esa.
Question. What happens when you do find a landmine?
Ordinarily, we disarm it, but today, small oversight, we haven't got all our gear right now.
Oh, it's on the way, I hope.
Yeah, it's all good.
En teoría, si no pasa por el amarillo, no.
So, since the war's now over, has your own role changed at all?
Yeah, I guess so. Now I'm almost entirely focused on EOD and UXO.
And that's something you did in the military too?
Yeah, that's the thing about mines. War or not, win, lose, they don't go away.
Tendré que revisar este lado, ¿no?
How many minefields are you facing on Altis?
That we know of, 22. 23 including whatever's here. Plus you've got Stratus, another 4 over there, I think.
I see. And can you estimate, roughly, how long it would take to remove them all?
A lot of variables, but cleanup operation of this size, if it's only IDAP, we're talking years.
Parece que las antiminas son un puntito y las antipersonas tienen cuernitos.
Do you ever get nervous?
Yeah, but not when I'm working. It hits you after. Or before.
Trabajo relajante, ¿eh? Leopard destruido. Vamos a ver si hay minas por aquí. Esta zona parece bastante limpia. Hey, Curaca, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo lo llevas? Buenos días. Recién despertado. Sí, yo no llevo mucho, ¿eh? Tampoco. Yo me he despertado más tarde. Tema... Estuvimos hablando ahí un poquito más. ¿Qué? ¿Qué tal ayer? Mucha información del sopetón. ¿Conocías algo ya? Sí, yo creo que ahora estará más por la carretera todo.
Andy, I'm at the barricade.
Cool. And the road?
Yeah, it's what we thought. Dozen or so APs, nothing the old Bobcat can't handle.
Ay, me voy perdido, no sé. Se todo con la radio. No te preocupes. Eso lo irás aprendiendo. Hoy toca misión, así que si quieres asistir, ya puedes. Incluso al Liberation. En el Discord hay una sección de Liberation y ahí te puedo tomar gallo. Te pones en la de
What do
esto
you
de
hope to
Liberation.
achieve in the town? What's your end goal?
Poke around, get rid of all the bad stuff, ERW, explosive remnants of war. In Oreo Castro, that'll be landmines and some leftover ordnance.
Hay que buscar por ahora esto. Eso es. Uxo.
Huh. Where a camp used to be.
Anything left?
Not much. Few memories, maybe.
Cualquier cosa que necesites, lo dices, ¿eh? ¿Me quieres asistir? Perfecto.
How well do you remember the town?
A nosotros cuanto más
before
mejor.
it was destroyed? Vividly.
Efecto reduciente. Eso, hacer que le doy espacio.
The mechanic you've been telling me about, he and his brother, they'd always lived there.
In the town, you mean? Yeah, as far as I know. The family business, the garage, it kind of kept them rooted.
O sea que cogí algo. Qué guapo, tú. Guapa. Cómo cambian las cosas. Esta campaña no la había tocado en la vida. Pero tiene bastante buena pinta. Aquí hay algo. Me cuenta aquí una historia de las minas y todo. ¡Ay! ¡Me cago en Dios! ¡Qué susto, tío! Esa no evitaba. Ah, no me jodas. Ojalá, es que tengo que volver a empezar, ¿eh? No, menos mal que desde aquí. Sí, sí, he encontrado una. Me cago en todo. Esa está marcada, en teoría. Eh... ¿Aparecía ese círculo? Que sí, que ya lo hemos visto. Muy bien. 15 meses, mayo de 2034. Todo muy colorido. Cálido día de verano. Ahí está mi compañero. Coño, un dibujo de... Ahí va. Ah, mira, aquí hay otro...
The church, where the mines are, it's sealed off now.
By IDAP.
No, NATO. They lost some guys. Hey, Andy,
Yep. What's up?
what's the deal with the church? Can we get in or what?
Sorry, Mac. No dice. NATO's got first dibs. They're bringing their boys home. Bag and tag. Best leave them to it.
I'll come back later.
Pues eso, no podemos entrar ahí. ¿Qué tengo que...? ¿Esto qué es? Tengo que ir a estos puntos amarillos, a lo mejor. Si estoy en ese curso. Vamos para allá. Vamos a ver qué nos cuenta. Buenas, Romeo. Bienvenido. Vamos bien aquí. De mañaneo. Ya no me he hecho ni el café.
Where our camp used to be.
Anything left?
Not much.
Estoy medio
Memories,
empanado.
maybe.
¿Qué?
Just some old boxes here and there.
IDAPs.
Yeah.
El pacificador. Vale, estos son como misiones. Vamos a descubrirlas todas primero. Vamos a... Mirar por aquí, Cuidado con esa mina, Con esa munición sin detonar. Este es el final de la calle y me he metido aquí, entonces me tengo que meter en el otro lado. Ah, una vez señaladas no te suenan. Es ese caso de ahí. ¿Estará arriba? Voy a guardar. Tiene pinta de que esté arriba. ¡Oh, no! ¡Está ahí! ¡Qué cabrón!
I got a UXO here dug right into the wall.
Shit. You'll need the toolkit for that job. I'll get on the horn to dispatch, see what's taking them so long.
I'll come back later.
Sí, al principio estarás un poco perdido, no pasa nada. Hay que ir a esa casa. Pero bueno, ya le irás pillando el truquillo. Ay. Lo más probable que misión...
Huh. I got a blocked door here.
Yep. NATO still hasn't gotten its ass into gear. I can make some calls, but,
I'll come back later.
Volveré luego. ¿Qué es esto? Eso de ahí. No había visto yo este cartel.
Hey, quick tidbit for you. Oreo Castro means beautiful castle in the local lingo.
Oh, I didn't know that. Do you speak the language?
Not so much, only with the older generation. Not a problem now, though.
Oh?
Well, Oreo Castro's pretty much a ghost town. Nothing here but remnants of war and a couple of goats. And they aren't exactly great conversationalists.
No, no está abierto. Así que Orecastro significa castillo en griego. No lo sabía.
The people here, they didn't have much love for their army.
Why do you think that is?
History, I guess. This place never supported the military takeover, the Kavala coup and all that. Plus, stationing troops in the town, nobody believed the government's spin about training. They were seen as an occupying force there to keep a lid on things.
Muy bien. ¿Vamos a empezar otra vez? Ya. Cuidado con la mina. Al menos no se te murió, ¿verdad? Tienes toda la razón. También te digo que ahí no había tiros, ¿eh? No había
There was
disparos, no
a
había
beautiful
nada.
oak tree here once, 300 years old. Folks used it as a meeting spot. They'd pin notes for one another on the trunk.
Por aquí para allá. Me enseñan cómo es antes y cómo es después de la guerra. Este sitio. Uy. Tengo que ir por aquí. No, por aquí y hay una roca. Em, Casa pequeña junto a casa grande. Al lado de la de esto. Ahí está.
By the way, Kate, I guess everyone there is pretty busy, you know, covering the peace talks.
At AAN?
Yeah.
It's quite hectic, yes. We're flying out a team, actually. Should be on the ground in the next few days.
Any insider info?
Well, it seems likely Nikos Panagopoulos will be the new president.
Really? That ex-guerrilla? Hell, Colonel Acantero's days must really be numbered.
Se les moría a los compañeros. Yo también puse a uno un poco bastante difícil, ¿eh? What?
What a mess. Loose rubble everywhere.
You up at the armory, Mac? We need to make a note to sort that shit out. Probably a whole bunch of ordnance lying around.
I'll come back later.
No lo veo, ¿eh? ¿Dónde está arriba o algo? Ahí está. Uepa. No es buena idea correr en una zona de minado, pero bueno. Tengo que volver a la carretera. Y irme hasta el fondo. Es este bidón, ¿no? Parece. Tiene que estar algo por aquí.
How does IDAP distribute aid? It's a big logistical operation.
Oh, yeah. As the name suggests, we're an international organization. You wouldn't believe the paperwork. Supplies come in from all over Europe, end up at our depot in the Netherlands.
And they're shipped out from there?
Mm-hmm. Worldwide. Ground convoys make up the last leg of the journey. Though sometimes we rely on helilifts and airdrops.
Vamos a empezar la campaña, pues.
It was NATO that helped bring him in. Actually, it was one hell of a supply drop.
Supply drop. Eso, Cucara, tú ni te rayas. Si necesitas algo algún día, no lo dices.
So, the supply drop, this was when exactly?
Right around the time we saw the ceasefire starting to break down. Must be more than a year ago now.
So, at that time, your camp was in the center of town?
Yeah, things were getting pretty desperate, though. I remember we hadn't been resupplied in months. No food, water, medicine. We were used to issues with logistics, but I don't know. In the end, it got so bad U.S. forces prepared an airdrop. Not an easy task, considering, but those crates, they really were life and death. That's why we needed somebody on the ground. Someone to make sure they came down okay.
And who was that?
Yo, ese era yo.
Guy named Adams, part of the NATO peacekeeping force. Close friend of mine, actually.
Adams? He went out alone?
From the way he told it, he may as well have. No, he went along with some new recruits, local bunch. It was his job to show them the ropes.
¿Qué tengo que hacer?
Something I'm not quite clear on. Why didn't IDAP transport the aid
No me he
themselves?
enterado.
There must have been a reason.
Bueno,
Yeah, there was. A couple of weeks previously, guerrillas had
no
ambushed
está
a
lo haciendo la
convoy.
descarga.
It was some dissident group out to sabotage the peace talks in Kervala. Anyway, NATO intervened and the whole thing just blew up. A checkpoint was hit. Protesters were fired upon at the MOD.
Yes, we were there. AAN.
And you know how bad it got.
Our movements were limited by the government.
Exactly. And convincing anybody to reassign troops, to escort NGOs, just a total non-starter.
¿Los GPS o vale? Eh, 044. ¿Me salen los números arriba? ¿En serio?
Tell me more about your friend. He was your liaison, right?
Right. But Adams and I had a history. We'd met on a previous deployment.
¿Dónde estoy
This guy
aquí?
was your typical army lifer. Cynical, sarcastic, big heart, pissed off with everyone, everything, all the time. But he always seemed to know where to find a
¿Dónde está?
beer,
Con los GPS.
and was always willing to share it.
Ya, pero ¿dónde están los suministros? No me marca... Tengo que pedirlos incluso. Ir a una posición, yo creo.
You mentioned something about the breakdown of peace talks, the situation blowing up. What happened there, from your perspective?
Well, for one thing, the change in the peacekeeping mandate came out of the blue. We heard the pressure came down the pipe from CSAT. They had the leverage.
You mean it was in their interest to kick NATO off the mainland?
Maybe. Certainly the government had become frustrated with NATO and vice versa.
I suppose they blame NATO for their, more sympathetic approach.
Hearts and minds, Adams used to tell me.
Ah, vale.
But the others
Yo
said they
aquí,
just didn't have the guts for it, couldn't do what needed to be done. To the southwest, his command had pointed out what they thought was a promising drop zone. Once he'd called in the airdrop, that was it. They just had to sit tight, hope for the best.
One thing I don't understand, what were they doing there, all the way up in the mountains?
The town, Oreo Castro, this place has historic ties with the guerrillas. For years, people here would provide them with food, water.
I see.
The government responded by draining the swamp.
And that involved sending soldiers?
Yeah, coin ops. Adams and his guys were there to remind them of their R2P.
Just a sec, I'm getting a bit lost in the lingo here.
Oh, gotcha. R2P is their responsibility to protect. Counterinsurgency can get real messy real quick. He was in charge of training, laws of armed conflict, that kind of thing.
Vale.
Adams normally tossed out an orange smoke grenade, which marked his position for the pilot.
¿Tengo más humo naranja? Eso es. Y bengalas. Vamos a poner las bengalas por si acaso. Mira, marcaciones.
I see movement. Fast mover, 1 click, bearing 315. I see movement. Unknown contact.
So,
Half a click.
these crates,
Northwest.
were there a lot of them, or...?
No, just 4. One contained medicine, another fresh drinking water. The rest were packed with rice or grain. Adams had to inspect each one individually. Later, we'd arrange collection.
Me parece buena idea esto de que te tengan que... Bueno, te están contando aquí una historia. Te dicen, bueno, Adams tenía que hacer tal. Y te dice lo que tienes que hacer. Chulo. Esto es arroz. ¿Has visto?
Thankfully, the
Qué
rice seemed
inteligente.
okay.
Muchos no lo hubiesen adivinado que eso era arroz. ¿Ves? Eso también es arroz.
It wasn't uncommon for the sacks of grain to split on impact, but that time we got lucky. He didn't lose a single one.
¿Ves? ¿Cómo no es tan fácil?
The medical items, you can imagine how pleased we were to see those arrive.
Gira para allá.
So they
cabrón.
landed safely.
Yeah, they were fine.
¿Y esto es el agua?
As I recall, the bottles of purified water were fine. We'd been waiting on those for weeks. As for the crates, they still needed to be checked before anyone else arrived. Now, the thing with airdrops,
Hijo de puta.
they're not exactly subtle. Smoke, noise of the plane, those bright green parachutes, they're gonna get you noticed. And when you're in the middle of bandit country, that's a problem.
Free to
Inspección.
engage. Medic! Standing by. Lock and
Vale.
load. Machine gunner, 300 meters northwest.
Me cago en Dios. El leñazo me ha pegado el del M2, tú. Uy. Sí, pero es una bala como la mano de grande. El proyectil es como... yo qué sé. Proyectil de una... calibre 50. Mierda. A ver, ya sé que voy a tener...
Engage.
atacar y
Get set
combate.
to engage.
Sí, los preparo y cuando salga ya me olvido de ellos. Me adelanto a los acontecimientos. La bala atravesó la pared porque yo no estaba ya mirando, ¿qué? Arroz.
Thankfully, the rice seemed okay.
Mientras no se rompa la bolsa en la arroz, da igual lo que le pase. ¿Y dónde pone que es esto cereal? Grind, ahí lo pone.
It wasn't uncommon for the sacks of grain to split on impact, but that time, we got lucky. He didn't lose a single one. Now, the thing with airdrops, they're not exactly subtle. Smoke, noise of the plane.
Venga ya. Tío, que solo es ir a mirar unos putos suministros. Solo hay que ir a mirar a unos putos suministros.
Disembark.
Vea, bajáis, ¿vale?
Ready. Waiting. Standing by.
Engage at will.
Posición.
Danger.
Combate. Y no tengo ninguna T, me cago en Dios. Somos unos pringados, tío. Ah, bueno, yo tengo un granadero, es verdad. Sí, pero contra el vehículo no
Thankfully,
creo
the
que pase
rice seemed
mucho.
okay. It wasn't uncommon for the sacks of grain to split on impact, but that time, we got lucky. He didn't lose a single one.
What's your position?
Yo no tengo
The medical
posición.
items, you can imagine how pleased we were to see those arrive.
Ella
So
tiene
they
mucha,
landed
muy buena
safely?
puntería.
Yeah, they were fine.
Está casi al máximo. Tiene un 80% de precisión,
On
creo.
position.
Ay, que los escucho ya, me cago en Dios. Me cago en su puta madre, tío. Una puta mierda de misión. Me está tocando los cojones. ¿Va en serio?
Engage.
Estoy hasta la polla de poner a estos en
Danger.
combate. Es que este coche es blindado, pero contra un calibre 50 no. Entonces, es como ir con un quad.
Thankfully, the rice seemed okay.
Ah, no sé si llevo cristal, creo que no. Es que... Con un calibre 50...
It wasn't uncommon for the sacks of grain to split on impact, but that time, we got lucky. He didn't lose a single one.
Me voy a la casa. Me voy a la casa y los espero ahí ya. Paso de este.
Disembark.
Solid copy.
Mira, ahí están.
Form diamond. Car, 300 meters northwest.
Hijo de puta. Que te veía, el cabrón. Podéis atacar, Yo no os diré nada. Mira, es el 5. No, es el 6. No. Es el 3.
Engage.
Atacar. Sí, ataca, ataca. Creo que no me ha gustado la idea.
Now, the thing with airdrop...
No me jodas, tío, no me jodas.
300 meters northwest.
Escucha. Ese calibre 50 es una holgada de polla. Pero no veas.
Engage at will. Danger.
Es el 5 y el 7. Bueno. Así aprendéis a no mirar cuando venga un calibre 50.
Thankfully, the rice seemed okay.
A nosotros en el clan somos muchos. Entonces, la calibre 50 puede abatir a 1 o a 2. Pero no más. A no ser que esté muy lejos y la puntería... Aquí lo malo es que la calibre 50 va por mí.
It wasn't uncommon for the sacks of grain to split on
Oiga,
impact,
bien.
but that time, we got lucky. He didn't lose a single one.
¡Todo desgraciado! Y es muy cabrón. Se ha puesto detrás de un puto arbusto que yo no lo veo.
Dismount.
Dismount.
Now, the
Hijo de
thing with
puta, tío.
airdrops,
¿Lo
they're
has
not
visto?
exactly subtle. Smoke, noise of the plane, those bright green parachutes, they're gonna get you
Pedazo de mamón.
noticed. And when you're in the middle of bandit country, that's a problem.
Avancen, señores, avancen. No, no me toquen los huevos. Avanzar. Espérate. De comandante. Ni lo veo. Avanzar, cabrones. Otro.
No, sir.
Que no dice. ¿Cómo que no?
Go.
Mis
Machine
cabrones.
gunner, 300 meters northwest. Car, 300 meters northwest.
¿Cuántos coches vienen? Ese no tiene artillero. Cabrón.
Hawker, 200 meters right.
¿Qué me está disparando? Apareció y ya me disparó, Se asomó, lo primero que hizo y me disparó el hijo de puta. Abatido.
Target neutralized. Car,
Vale,
300
muerto.
meters northwest.
Vale, muy bien, ahora sí que avanzáis, cabrones.
Move 300 meters. Front.
Copy.
Ahora sí, hijos de puta.
No, sir.
No quieren avanzar.
Reload.
Este al menos lo hace bien. A ese lo voy a ascender a cabo.
Soldier, 200 meters front.
Ay, que me disparan de por ahí, tío. Me vienen de la derecha.
Soldier, 100 meters to the right of us.
Venga, de pie.
On your feet.
Venga, de pie y mira para allá. No quiero mirar para allá, ¿no? Que no lo veo, ¿eh? Me disparan de por ahí, pero no los veo, tío. Este al menos lleva armas cortas. Lo bueno de esto, comandante, es esto de aquí. Hijo de puta. Lo ve. ¿Ya? Vamos a bajar la cámara. Bueno, me parece que haya nadie.
Return to formation!
Understood.
A ver. ¿Puedo guardar? Puedo guardar. Voy a guardar. Ya me he cargado la esto. Qué pedazo de cabrón.
As I recall, the bottles
hay
of
tíos,
purified
¿eh?
water were fine. We'd been waiting on those for weeks.
Están disparando ahí,
The
tíos.
was attacked.
Yeah, from what I heard, it was pretty intense. I don't have the numbers, but maybe 6 or 7 were killed.
Ahora, la he tumbado.
The medical items, you can imagine how pleased we were to see those arrive.
So they landed safely.
Yeah, they were fine.
Ah, bueno,
What
ellos
happened when the
tienen un
supplies had
putate.
been secured?
Adams would fire a flare.
Waiting. Waiting. Standing by.
Ahora me he disparado una bengala. Sí, yo disparo una bengala. Pero me meto en el coche. Pero vamos, del tirón. Mierda, se acaba.
Back at the camp, of course, we'd heard all the gunfire.
Estaba
about
pensando
that
en
flare.
coger
When we
la
spotted
furgoneta con la
I
M2.
don't know. Felt like finding a moment of hope or something.
Sure. I can only imagine. And thanks for sharing. It puts a human perspective on my work. Speaking of which, your friend, do you think he'd be willing to contribute further? Even, off the record. What with the topic of my article, having an expert, an instructor on the laws of war.
Look, I'm sorry. I know he'd help out however he could, but listen, he died on Stratus. A year and a bit later. Landmine.
Landmine. Vamos, parece ser que el que cuenta la historia, el Nazam este, es el único que sobrevivió a Altis, tío, después de la guerra.
Mac, heads up. Bobcat's on the move. Driver wouldn't wait.
That's fine, thanks, Andy. Hey, Kate, bear with me. It's gonna get a little noisy here. We gotta clear out some mines.
Take your time. Just let me know when you can talk.
¿Qué hay que hacer? Encontrar todos los explosivos. ¿Seréis cabrones? Que me pegue a dar un paseo por aquí, ¿no? Dicen.
Okay, road's safe now. Bring the van on up.
Will do. Also, Mac,
¿Esto?
the NATO guys, they've kicked in all the doors. You're free to search inside the buildings now.
Got it. At least I can get out of the fucking rain. I'll come find you in a bit.
Have fun reminiscing.
Hay que rodear la mierda esta de la iglesia. Ahí dicen que no podemos entrar. Entonces no entraremos ahí. Me quedará esta zona de aquí y la carretera esta también. Puedo por todo el exterior. A ver, la caseta. Sí, puedo ir por aquí más o menos. Hay que ir un poquito más para abajo. Para pillar toda la carretera bien. ¿Y eso? ¿Un Hellcat ahí destruido de la nada? ¿Qué aterrizó encima de una mina? Vale, no me he llegado aquí. Pues quedaría la zona del bosque o algo, supongo. Tengo que encontrar todas las minas. Ah, cabrón. Me lo han apuntado. Eso es porque no son claros. Um, vale, yo estoy aquí. Tengo que salir. ¿Eh? ¿Esto? No. Vamos ahí al lado de una roca. Debe ser esto. Aquí hay una roca, sí. Y aquí tiene que haber algo para chutarme un poco de LSD. ¿Ves? Aquí está.
Whole families, you know.
What's that, Nathan?
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Old habit. Just this whole mess.
The war.
Everything. I focus on my work, get the job done, but now and again, it's hard not to think.
¿Y el
What
baño?
happened to the folks here?
¿Eh? ¿Y el baño en esta casa dónde está? Hostia, vaya coche, ¿no? Está todo muy bien. Vale. Ahora hay que ir en ese lado. Mm, por detrás. Y pegadito a estas dos casas. Vale. Es un poco problema abrir el mapa mientras corro por un campo minado, ¿eh? Y es esto de aquí. Toma, gallinero.
How had things deteriorated so quickly? I mean, Altis is not exactly third world, yet food became scarce.
It's the little things. A local delivery stops, trawler is damaged, farmland gets mined. It's an almost imperceptible but fragile network. So when war comes, things just
Eso
fall
es la
apart.
cama. No tienen modelado de cama, pobrecillo. Ahí, detrás de la casa esta. Supongo yo que entre vista y vista irás descubriendo las minas que te faltan, como por ejemplo esa de ahí.
Our camp in the town, I still remember it clear as day.
Were there many of you?
From IDAP? No, not really. 4, maybe, sometimes a couple more, depending on what we had going on. It was mainly logistics, but we did have a doctor and an ambulance.
No weapons. Curioso. Respeto el camino. Pero ese ya lo habíamos activado, Bueno, yo me retiro que tengo cosas que hacer. Suerte con el stream. Gracias, Romeo. Nos vemos más tarde en misión, que tiene pinta que vamos a ser mucho. Sí, sí, vamos a ser unos cuantos, tiene pinta. Para mí bien. Lo que pasa es que hace mucho que no somos tantos y voy a estar un poco perdido.
So, Nathan, may I ask, when you
Nos tenemos que
first came to
organizar
Oreo
bien entre
Castro,
los
what were you
mandos.
doing there?
IDAP asked me to give some talks on landmines.
Talks? Who with?
Anyone who'd listen, really. It was all about raising awareness.
¿Arriba esto también?
Going back to what I said about the people here, their support for the guerrillas, sometimes it was a lot more than food and water.
What, guns?
Yeah, even after the government troops arrived, garrisoned their mayor's house, folks were still doing all they could for the cause.
Creo que no sea una campaña de diapositivas. Está bien, te cuenta una historia, pero... Buah. Agüita. Si ir a un sitio, darle espacio y ver una
My
cinemática.
understanding of NATO's actions, particularly against the guerrillas, it's patchy. Maybe you could help fill the gaps?
Sure. Well, aside from the odd direct engagement, it was mostly aerial support, drone strikes. Of course, that all came from the air base, the one on Stratus.
I see. Not Altis.
No. Even before they were forced to leave, their presence on the mainland didn't stack up
Hostia.
much.
Así me como la mina, tú. Bueno, ya sabemos que en el primer círculo amarillo puede estar.
Morning. You been in?
You kidding me? I ain't going in there, man. That shit's all yours.
Where are you now?
Who, me? I'm exploring.
I can hear an echo.
Yeah, I'm in what used to be the mayor's place, actually. At least it was before the government forces took it over.
Tell me more about Staff Sergeant Adams. You met him on a previous deployment. That must have been in Generous, right?
No, actually, this was after I'd left the military. Previous deployment with IDAP. Pakistan. It must have been, God, 15 years ago? I think. Feels like another lifetime. I got a leaflet here. The Army must have scattered thousands of these.
Propaganda.
Something like that.
Propaganda.
This one says, there's still time to surrender. Maybe a bad choice of words, considering.
Ay. ¿Cómo está la
Time to
guerra?
surrender. What's the context here?
This was last year, September. These leaflets, they were dropped maybe a day before the fighting began. You see, the guerrillas there, they'd found themselves a new leader. Charismatic, ex-military. For him, this was no time to surrender. Far from it. In fact, he used that time to rally his people, encourage them to resist, build defenses. Meanwhile, the army was setting up for a major offensive. The attack on Oreo Castro, it was no secret. Of course, after the leaflet drop, IDAP started to pull out of the town. So the little I do know, well, that brings us back to the brother. The one who disappeared.
Ahora soy el hermano. Investiga plan completo.
His name was Alexis. He'd volunteered to build the barricade. Town was his home, after all.
Qué panfleto, cabrón. ¿Dónde está el panfleto este?
By that point, the guerrillas were short on vehicles, damaged, destroyed, or otherwise. They had to improvise.
Joder, el tirador ese está bien cubierto. ¿Qué tengo que hacer? Registra ciudad en busca de coches y civiles. Civiles aparcados. Investiga panfleto. Comprueba que tiene. Tengo que comprobar que tiene que decir el gobierno. Nada, que nos vendamos, ya lo he dicho. Vaya. ¡Epa! ¡Ah, puta!
Do you think Alexis, I don't know, thought twice about taking these vehicles?
Look, sure, these were his neighbors, but this was their home.
Vale, aquí hay
And
otro.
it was under attack. What would you do?
Ah, no, eso es una ambulancia. Aquí hay otro coche, eso sí.
Help me out with some context here. This barricade.
I mean, it was crude, right? A gap between two outcrops of rock, natural bottleneck. The guerrillas hoped to block the road by jamming it with vehicles. As for the vehicles in the barricade, the commission actually linked the plates to a number of locals. Of course, several were still missing after the incident, so the investigation
¿Este es el panfleto?
made some assumptions.
So, these leaflets, they were a warning to the town.
Yeah, they confirmed the offensive.
The government was concerned about civilian casualties.
Don't sound too surprised.
So, NATO's message, do you think it was getting through? I mean, according to the laws of armed conflict, that's the principle of precaution, right?
Sure, maybe. Or maybe they were just sick of all the extra paperwork.
Perfecta.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Just, I was thinking, he even took a local priest's car. I remember I was talking to Father Georgiopoulos, and he was actually very good about the whole thing.
How so?
Something about rich men and camels.
Bueno, me he quitado el coche el cura, de lujo. Hola.
Hey, just a thought.
I
You
guess
remember
I
the
would've.
earthquakes back then?
Yes, they were quite frequent. Were IDAP at all concerned about that?
Oh, yeah. Any kind of disaster relief on top of what we were dealing with, it would have just about finished us off completely.
Esos dispares tú. Estos disparos. Vale.
These vehicles, I suppose all of them were taken without consent.
Well, yeah, given the circumstances. The owners couldn't exactly refuse.
Right, but that's the thing. Never mind theft being illegal. The laws of armed conflict prohibit such actions.
Que le follen, tío. Estamos en guerra, tío. Que es un dios. Aquí todo. Yo qué sé, no vale todo, pero
After
casi
Alexis
todo.
built the barricade, what then? Did he stay inside the town?
No. That's where the story gets more complicated. The barricade itself was later chained up and set on fire by someone else. I don't know quite who. Alexis, he headed west to lay mines.
Hacia el oeste. Vámonos. ¿Tengo minas? No.
Anti-tank mines were already in the ground. If there's no pull fuse, and so long as they've not been stacked, they aren't too hard to remove. But Alexis, although he didn't use anti-handling devices, he did create a hybrid minefield.
AT mines. Mixed with APs.
That's it, yeah. He put anti-personnel mines around the anti-tank ones, made clearance all that much harder.
Tengo que minar ahí, ¿no? Vale, sí. Supongo que también si disparan si se acercan y explotan la mina antipersona, las antitanque también incrementarán.
These mines, how did they get hold of them?
Pues había una mochila.
They got them when the government's outposts fell into guerrilla hands. Bounding mines. A type that leaps up a meter into the air before exploding. Nasty stuff. Hell, nowadays they're even made with plastic casing to throw off older types of mine detector.
Lovely.
Oh yeah. Just do yourself a favor. Don't look up Bouncing Betty injuries online.
Espérate, vamos a guardar. Quiero comprobar una cosa. Si me acerco, ¿reviento? Supongo que sí. Muerto. Vale, pues hay que tener cuidado, ¿eh? No. Escape, no. Cuidado que escape. No. Vestigios de guerra. Ampliar. Los guerrilleros. Vale, aquí estoy. Supongo yo. Vale. Tengo que colocar estos de aquí.
And they're still there?
Ay, mierda, me he equivocado.
But not for long. We're setting up our demining drones as we speak.
Me he equivocado un poco, ¿eh? Oh, Dios. Que sí. ¿Cómo? Oh, Dios. Pero tengo 7, tío. Voy a ponerlos un poquito más como yo quiera. En el campo minado siempre se intenta colocar desde lo más lejos hasta lo más cerca. Vale, 7. Vamos a colocar una aquí.
And they're still there?
They're not
Otra
for
aquí.
long. We're setting up our demining drones as we speak.
Ni idea. ¿Qué coño? Que no me revienten estas.
You know, thinking about it, even if we had a record of where Alexis's mines were, it may not do much good.
No? I thought minefield maps were a key part of your work.
Most folks don't realize, but landmines, they don't stay put. Heavy rain, landslides, keeping a map current ain't so simple. And with all the earthquakes in this region, there's little chance they'd all be in the same place. I don't know. Maybe just gallows humor, but we've got an expression for that. Landmines have legs.
Tienen patas. Vale. Y sé dónde estaban los demás. Vamos a meterlas aquí.
And did he? Place them correctly, I mean.
No, not really. I mean, Alexis had basic training, but I'm more impressed he didn't blow himself up, really.
So, moving on. Where did Alexis go next?
He took a quad bike up to the castle behind the town.
Generador de IA, que no te
The
extrañe.
castle? Why?
He was needed at the guerrillas'
Esta gente no ha
base
visto a una
camp.
mujer en la vida.
Okay. His group were running things from up at the castle.
Mm-hmm. And I see what you're getting at. Yeah, Geneva Convention's cultural objects, I think.
The barricade. There wasn't any way around it then?
From the
La
road?
derecha.
No, well, not unless you cut through the compound.
¿Has visto cómo superó la de esto?
Maybe a technical question.
Go ahead.
¿Qué tal,
In these
Peter?
situations, do those
¿Cómo va el
involved commonly
trabajo?
record the locations of minefields?
That's a tough one. Take this situation, for example. I'm convinced Alexis would have made a record. It's his home, after all. But do we have access to that information? No. And that's the problem. Things, information, people, landmines, they get lost in the fog of war. But that's the thing about landmines. Lost or not, they stick around. They wait to be found.
A ver. Pound no significa que las pises, pero bueno. ¿Tengo que llegar aquí? No, tengo que llegar un poco más dentro. Nos vamos con el quad. Ellos están recordando el pasado y yo soy el que genera ese recuerdo, por así decirlo.
Do you feel these preparations made a difference?
In the short term, I do, yeah. The
Me están contando una
barricade
historia y
held,
tú lo estás
the
recreando.
government's tanks were knocked out on the road.
And in the long term?
I'd go on, but as you may have heard, it's getting kind of loud here.
By the sounds of it, you've got your hands full.
This will only take a minute. Be right back.
Yo voy y estoy contando los recuerdos que tengo. ¿Eh?
Bet you wish we had one of those in Pakistan, huh?
I gotta admit, that's 60 tons of getting shit done.
Ay, que sale volando. Ay, que sale volando. Pero si no te está tocando, ¿por qué te mueves?
Oh, by the way, while you were busy chatting to, well, whoever that is that isn't your wife.
I told you, Andy, she's a journalist. Get to the point.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I assembled the demining drones.
Both of them?
Well, yeah. They're by the van.
Toma, furgoneta, drones. Y ahora es el presente. Grande, loco.
All right, got the terminal.
Cool. So just connect it to a drone and, yeah, take control.
Bella y bestia.
You got it?
Looking good.
So, you're gonna want to use the auto hover mode. Switch it on whenever you need to stay in one place.
Auto hover, right.
Sí,
I'll
hombre,
arm the
un
explosives
paquete.
once you've reached the minefield.
Me tiene controlado esto. Quita, hombre. Vamos poco a poco. Ay. Hmm. Yo no tengo horizonte vertical, ¿eh? Vale, voy a hacerte caso. ¿Ahora qué? Supongo que no es esta la que quiera. Para que nos jodemos. A ver, una mina que estaba en medio del campo. Eso de ahí, ¿no? ¿Cómo? A lo mejor están haciendo la campaña de Arma 4, por eso no salía. No, es posible. A ver, aquí, ¿qué pasa? Estoy aquí encima. ¿Tengo que bajar o algo? ¿Liberar controles? ¿Y este qué es? Controlar conductor. ¿Y si son lo mismo, no? Quita esto, hombre. No entiendo cómo va esto. A ver, sé que si le doy a clic izquierdo se cae. Hay un proyectil o algo. Yo digo, no sale todavía porque aún no saben cómo hacerlo. El Arma 4. A ver, esa ya la tenemos. Vamos a ver por una mina antipersona, aunque sea. Madre mía, las que hay dentro, tú. Tira un poquito para atrás. Hace mucho que no piloto aquí en el arma, ¿eh? Me siento verde. ¿Y ahora qué, colega? Le doy clic izquierdo. ¿Fuera de quién? Ah, despejar el campo de minas asignado. Me cago en tu puta madre, tío. Avísame que hay que ir para allá. Soy yo que no me entero de nada o no me lo explican bien. Yo creo que es lo segundo. No me lo explican bien.
Heads up. Enabling charges.
Activamos las cargas.
Okay, now, the bombs. You only got 4. Release one and it'll drop straight down. Simple physics. If you run out, fly over to the van. There's plenty spare.
Thanks.
¿Qué tengo que hacer? ¿Quedarme aquí? Si me quedo aquí, dice que cae al suelo, ¿no? Vamos a meternos un poquito más para atrás. Vale.
Having fun there?
Making things go boom, you know it. These demining charges pack quite a punch. What's in them?
500 grams of Crovex water gel, baby.
Chaval, ¿sabes? Chaval. Y tiene la voz aquí, vamos, de mi abuelo. Vale, básicamente, pues hay que quedarse aquí y la tiran. Vale. Nada, no puedes hacer sin control. Mira, me voy a llevar esas 4. Métete aquí, ¿no? Vale. Un poquito más para atrás, vale.
I'm out.
Don't sweat it. Steer back on over to the van. I'll rearm you.
He fallado, no le he dado ni una. ¿Tú crees que no me entero de nada?
Understood.
Vale, vale, No me entero de nada, dice. Si yo no me entero de nada...
There you are. Set it down where you started. Over by those white containers.
Voilà. ¿Aquí? ¿Te parece bien? ¿Eh? ¿Has visto? Pedazo de aterrizaje que acabo de hacer. Señor Pipite. ¿He revolucionado? Venga, cárgamelo. En una cajita, tío, mierda. Yo, tarda la vida en poner 4 putas bombas. ¿Sabes cómo se desmina así en mi pueblo?
Question. How can I see if I've gotten all the mines?
A por
Your
culo.
drone's got a dedicated sensor. Get close enough, and it'll detect any nearby explosives.
He visto minas por aquí. Ahí.
Gonna need another resupply.
No problem, Max. Same deal.
Boom. Bombardeo. Bombardeo en Aranjuez. Hola. No hace falta ni que aterrice. Ya me las ponen de lo quiero que estoy. Bueno, pues no. Que te corto un poco el flequillo. Creo que le he hecho un poco de daño. Ay. Otra vez. Madre mía, qué bueno que soy. ¿Ya? Mira ahí. Está bien como tutorial, pero como campaña me voy a cagar en todo, tú. Esto sí que es roleo. Cago en Dios. Bombarden. ¡Ay! ¡Pum! Eso suena fuerte, ¿eh? Están más o menos por ahí. Aún no le he dado.
How's it going?
Getting there.
Me lo estoy pasando bien, parece que estoy bombardeando.
Seriously? Nathaniel Francis McDade, how big is this minefield?
Only my mom calls me Francis,
¿visto?
Andy.
Yeah, sure thing, Franny Mac. Anyway, you know the drill. Send it back for resupply.
All right, almost done.
Me lo estoy pasando bien, en verdad, bombardeando aquí. Epa, calma. Vamos despacito. Suave, suavecito. Ah. Venga, 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 vamos, vamos, carga, carga, carga. Nos vamos. Sí, es la misma tarea que mantenía antes. ¿Por qué se activa ahora? $25 la esto de seguridad. Hay que hacer un poquito de... Vamos a hacer el bombardeo de precisión. Ya no quedan muchas minas. ¿No le he dado? Pues si ha caído encima. ¡Pum! Ese sí que le da. Poco timo, ¿no? Esto de aquí. O al final sí que le da. ¿Esto será el radio de explosión? No, no, no creo que revienten las dos. Vamos a ir a por esta. Tira para adelante. Para adelante, para adelante. Quieto. Ahí, quieto. Y no le he dado. Que hay un dios. Tú, venga, ponte recto. Ay. Esa explota. Toma, explotado las dos. Madre mía, vaya bombardero. ¿Suena como un mortero? No, mortero suena... Esto no sé cómo suena. Suena raro. Mira, Peter, mi habilidad para aterrizar, ¿eh? Y ahora es cuando reviento el ron. El ron. El ron lo voy a reventar también, dentro de poco. ¿Has visto? Madre mía, encima de la caja. ¿Visto? God, ¿eh? Que me den mi licencia de piloto, por favor. Con el mi dron no soy tan bueno, pero... ¡Hostia, hostia, hostia! Pensaba que era la Q. Y no la... Casi lo reviento. Ya no quedan minas. Tiene que quedar, ¿no? Ahí queda una. Quieto. Queda para adelante. Ay, Dios. Esto me está costando, ¿eh? No sé por qué. Ay, he tirado otra sin
That's
querer.
it.
Mi dron.
What the fuck was that?
Relax, relax. It sounds like it came from the other side of town. You want me to take a look?
No, stay put. I'll go.
Hala. Que den por culo a las cinemáticas. Hostia, que sí me... Que sí me como esa mina, tío, por ir corriendo. Ahí. ¿Qué te ha pasado aquí?
Yeah, collapsed building, UXO, I bet. Skittish things at the best of times.
Disturbed by your demining activity?
Could be. That's what makes them so damn dangerous. You never know if they're gonna stay unexploded.
¿Y qué quieres que haga, colega? Ah, el que estaba ahí, vale, sí. ¡Ojo! ¿Hay cositas? No.
Hello. How'd you get here?
Another find?
Mm-hmm. Laser designator.
Laser
Yeah, I
designator.
think special forces would use to call in an airstrike.
Oh, interesting. Actually, the airstrike on the town, the details of that are fuzzy. Do you happen to remember it well? The airstrike, I mean.
Yeah. October 13th. Cluster bomb. Town was shook up pretty bad.
Hace 9 meses.
The army just wasn't able to capture the place. And Colonel Arcanteros, he did not tolerate failure. So he asked foreign powers to intervene. Come in, break the guerrillas' resolve.
Right. And the evidence in the commission report, doesn't it point to CSAT?
Yeah. But truth can be the first casualty of war.
Sure, but didn't somebody witness them in action?
From a distance, yeah. Though he wasn't exactly what you'd call reliable. Guy was a goat herd. Barely spoke any English.
That was not in the report I read.
It never is. Still, he did say they came down by parachute, and that at least was corroborated by multiple sources.
Ha sido el César. Me llamo Puntitos. Cállate, coño.
These operatives, then? They moved in on the castle?
Yep. Must have been a fire team at least.
Una escuadra. Punto de inserción y tengo que ir al castillo, ese castillo ahí. Les voy a decir que se tumben, tú. Bueno, que se vayan agachados. Era el 7, ¿no?
Pepin!
Yo he jugado pocas veces con el CSOT. Como siempre son el enemigo.
The man who claimed to have seen all of this. Is there anything else you can tell me about him?
Not much. Like I say, simple goat herd. Lived alone. Small stone shed just north of the castle.
درگیری مسلسلچی 300 متر غرب.
آماده شلیکم.
Cálmate, dos. Cálmate.
هدف را میبینم.
Tranquilos.
Okay, let's get back to CSAT. What were they doing there, on Altis, at this time?
They were an embedded training team, ETT. Officially, they were just there to oversee counterinsurgency operations.
And unofficially?
Anyone's guess. A lot of different rumors. Black sites, car bombs, false flags.
درگیری مسلسلچی 200 متر جلوتر. هدفگیری شد.
¿Qué hay que hacer? Tareas. Que no te vean.
هدف مشخص.
روی زمین بخواب.
Que es 8
آرایش خطی بگیر.
en línea. Me apetece guardar aquí. No quiero caminar más.
خمپاره 200 متر در جلو. آماده شلیکم.
The guerrillas were taken out, one by one.
درگیری خمپاره 200 متر جلوتر.
Está la cosa tranquila. ¿Por qué no dispara el mortero? Vale.
Shots fired. When things kicked off, there was a short burst of panicked radio chatter.
Venga ya, hombre.
Then, silence. If we're to believe the goat herd, they then set up a position on the battlements, moved to a vantage point on the castle's outer wall.
بچه‌ها حرکتم رو تکرار کنید.
Okay, according to my notes, several targets were identified from afar, presumably by these special forces at the castle. Once they had a handle on what was what, they called it in. A jet approached from the east and dropped a single bomb. The positions in the town were then destroyed, but the church and IDAP's camps were left untouched. Does that match up with events as they were given to you?
Yeah, though to manage a guided strike like that, they must have had thermal imaging. Three armed off-roads were destroyed in the attack.
Refuerzos.
درخواست
bombardeo.
حمله هوایی به موقعیت فرستاده شد. تمام.
Copy that. Strike aircraft on the way. Out.
Do you know why the government signed off on such a heavy-handed response? A cluster bomb? That's rather indiscriminate, even if it was laser-guided.
Sure, I mean, with a designator, you just switch it on, aim it at, well, whatever. The idea is that you remain in place, keep the laser on target. But even if it's done perfectly, a lot of uncontrolled variables. One of our doctors was out on the front line with medical supplies.
Wait, he wasn't at the church?
No, he was out in the open.
¿Va a caer? Había un médico en la zona. Qué loco. Ahí viene.
By all accounts, the town just seemed to explode. Buildings were burning for days.
And this spotter, he just disappeared?
Yeah. Last seen leaving the castle, heading west.
Let's talk about IDAP's doctor. You said he was on his way to the church. Did he make it there?
No. He lost his life. Killed trying to save others. I can certainly say the devastation was severe. Dozens killed, combatants and non-combatants alike. The guerrillas, they were in total disarray. Many fled, retreating to the mountains. And IDAP, we did what we could, but there were so many wounded. So many we'd never be able to identify.
Nathan?
No, I'm still here. I just need to grab something real quick. This'll only take a sec.
Fuerza aliado, ¿no? Tiene pinta de que es mi extracción, sí. ¿Qué pasó? Vuestro casco me gusta más, Vipers.
I understand that CSAT denied any involvement.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe with good reason.
Oh?
Look, I don't know. There were shell casings found at the castle. NATO mil-spec.
Okay, so then either they were supplying the guerrillas or...
Or they were there. Maybe trying to win back the government support. Maybe...
What?
I don't know.
¿Quiénes eran? En casquillos de la otra.
Hear that? Sounds like our delivery drone.
I'm on it.
Just, check the box underneath for the toolkit.
I swear to God, Andy, if it's empty again...
That was one time. Trust me, you'll be dicking around with landmines soon enough, Mac.
Good, toolkit's here. See you later, little buddy.
What's that?
Nothing, just, talking to myself.
Okay, little buddy. Sure thing.
Hey, how are you getting on?
Not bad, not bad. Our gear's finally arrived from dispatch. I can start deactivating mines and leftover ordnance now.
Oh, right. And do you do that by hand?
Sure do. Crawl up close, identify it, and then just, disarm the thing.
I'm sure it's more involved than that.
Yeah, well, I may have skipped the part where, it can explode.
Vaya, todo un héroe. ¿Qué tengo que hacer? Desactivar minas por ahí, ¿no? Aquí había una, que ya no está. Ahí hay una.
Gotcha. Well, you were one sneaky little bastard. Now, what were you hiding upstairs?
Apuntando, Carpintería. ¿Es esta casa? ¿Cómo murió esto, tío? Vale, por eso me lo han dado. Coges aquí la mina para poder subir y desbloquear esto, vale, porque antes no lo haga de otra manera. Desgraciado.
There's an old photograph here. Picture of Alexis and his brother Marcos.
The civilian killed at the church. The landmine, right?
Yeah. Although honestly, it was a small miracle he'd made it that far.
Tell me more about Marcos.
Poor guy. He always seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He'd made it through the airstrike, but only to get caught up in the assault that followed right after.
There were still guerrillas in the town, even after the strike.
Mm-hmm. But Oreo Castro, it wasn't just a town. It had become a symbol of the resistance. It was important for both sides, and government forces were making their final push. Alexis had made it out, but his brother? Like I say, Marcos was always shit out of luck. The guy had been waiting at his brother's place. Marcos had been wounded, caught in the leg by shrapnel.
I see.
Dispara.
Do you think he went there to talk his brother into leaving, or to join the cause?
Estoy hecho mierda.
Marcos was there to talk his brother down, I think. He was only interested in survival, and that meant getting to IDAP at the church.
He remained a non-combatant then?
Protected by the Geneva Conventions, Article 51. But you gotta remember, right after the strike, it was total chaos. Getting caught in the crossfire was a danger. He soon realized he had to keep his distance. I reckon Marcos was there to join the fight. He wasted no time in grabbing a rifle, that's for sure.
Oh. No sé quién es aliado y quién es enemigo. Ah. Supongo que la guerrilla no tiene luces. ¡Mierda! Reinaba el caos, literalmente. Ay, hijos de puta. Vamos.
Injured, unarmed, alone, he set off towards the church.
Hijos de puta. ¿Es posible que me consideren aliado si no cojo un arma? Me parece que Marcos... Marcos está jodido, ¿eh? Está hecho mierda. Vamos.
Marcos left the ruins of his brother's home without a weapon, stumbled his way toward the church.
Hijo de puta. No, no quiero un arma. Me salgo de la calle, tío. Me hubiese cogido un arma, literal. No me jodas, ¿qué hago ahora? Wow. Pedazo de oficina. No tengo por dónde cruzar, cabrones. Túmbate. Ah. Un arma ni polla, si no me van a disparar. Hay cadáveres por todos lados. Ah. ¿Tengo que ir por la calle? ¿Será posible? Vamos. Me duele el tobillo, me he hecho los guices. Pues vale que vaya cansado. ¡Ah! Tienes enemigos por ahí. Oh. Hasta aquí llegó el Marcos. Ah, ¿en serio? ¿No tengo que morir? ¿Será posible? Hijos de puta. Tío, la arma. Dame la
He
arma.
found a weapon. Enough was enough.
Dame el casco, esto y lo otro. Venga, ahora soy un puto guerrillero. Que va a durar menos. No me dispares, No los veo, tío. Hay que luchar. Cruza, cruza. Cúbreme, cabrón.
There was no going back once he had blood on his hands.
Ya no había vuelta atrás. Pues no, no había vuelta atrás.
Marcos was a civilian, a mechanic. He had to get to the church.
Ah, soy un mecánico. Yo pensaba que era un guerrillero que estaba en mi puta casa. Yo, pues como tal, hay que luchar. Pero no me meten en contexto, madre mía. Vamos. Avanza, cabrón. Ah. Mejor me tumbo. Voy a guardar aquí al menos. Vamos, vamos. Solo puedo guardar en un sitio. Vamos, Marcos. Un huevo de minas, dicen. Aquí estaba petado. Necesito ayuda. Ah. Vamos, ya casi llegamos. ¿Por dónde coño se entra? Por otro lado. Es una piedra. Aquí, cabrón.
An hour or two later, the government sent a truck to our camp. The soldiers searched the civilians for hidden weapons.
But they didn't find any.
No, and we'd already checked. It's vital our camps are weapon-free spaces, safe havens.
And Marcus, he must have made it through then.
Yeah, just about. We talked a few times after. I don't know, he seemed different.
I can imagine why. And what did he do after?
Hard to tell, but like I said, he kept looking for his brother.
Of course. And Marcus, his body, is still there in the churchyard?
Yeah. To think he survived all that just to return to the same spot less than a year later.
Es Marcos, vale.
Nathan, you said that Alexis had been a recruit in the Altis Armed Forces.
Yeah, that's right.
So, his decision to leave the army, to join the guerrillas, do you know how that came about?
It's funny, I asked Marcos the same thing once. He just looked at me and shrugged. Later on, I heard their father had been killed in the Civil War, but I don't know. Whatever his reasons, Marcos seemed to have made peace with the fact he wouldn't change his brother's mind.
Change your mind. Y aquí hay otra cosa, ¿no? Venga, vamos para allá. Y si no, lo voy a dejar pasar. Buenas.
Those guys at the outpost, the ones murdered by the guerrillas, they never even got a shot off.
How come?
Not sure. I mean, it all happened at night. Big thunderstorm, heavy rain. But there are rumors. Some even claim the attackers were wearing army uniforms.
I see. That would constitute a war crime, no? An act of perfidy.
Yeah, but after the executions, in for a dime, in for a dollar.
¿Qué tenemos? Otro recuerdo aquí.
You know, Alexis' house, his workshop, it was like something from another time.
I'm not quite sure I follow.
Pounding of a hammer, back and forth of a wood saw, I don't know. Things felt simpler back then, is all. Far cry from what was to come.
Yo quiero una cama que estaba de celos ahora. Lo siguiente.
I often read articles about war and video games,
Vestigios,
digital battlefield and such. What's your view?
My view? Usually flat on my belly, few inches away from high explosives. I'm just messing with you, Kate. That's the reality these days. In many ways, it's become so, sanitized. A few pixels on a screen, a drone in the air, and a guy sitting somewhere on the other side of the world, ready to click a button. NATO's been busy. Even managed to clear out a few mines.
¿Hay otro? Sí, hay otro aquí.
I remember there used to be a cafe here once. Local place. Actually, that's an understatement. I must have picked up more local curse words there than the entire rest of my time out here put together.
It sounds like quite an institution. Did it shut down when the fighting started?
Eventually. The guy who ran it, he didn't have much love for the government. I remember he used to charge the local soldiers double, called it a tourist tax. And one night he was bundled off in the back of a truck. Never saw that guy again.
Desapareció.
It's strange to think kids once played here.
I assume the town was evacuated at some point.
Oh yeah, early on. Many folk left as soon as the ceasefire started to fall apart. Others fled when all those leaflets came. Just a handful of people were here for the end.
Yeah. Esto, ¿no?
You know, when I joined IDAP, we were a pretty small outfit.
And how many countries is IDAP active in today?
Now, we're pretty widespread, 50 in the global south alone. CCB, DRR, you name it, we provide aid and development for more than 60 million each year.
If you don't mind me saying, Nathan, you sound... I don't know exactly.
Look, it's great we can help so many now. Just back in the day, it wasn't so much politics, you know?
Otra mecánica más. ¿Puedo salir con el espacio?
Those earthquakes you mentioned, weren't there some fairly bad ones not so long ago?
Nothing too major. The worst came during NATO's invasion, actually. Solid 4s and 5s on the Richter scale. The soil out here is pretty loose, though. Folks were worried about gas lines getting damaged. Turns out they were right to be.
Tengo que mirar otra vez el coche, ¿eh?
The Army's offensive against the town, it seems like, well, a disaster, to be honest.
Yeah, they never imagined the guerrillas would put up a fight, that's for sure. The mines on the road caught them off guard, immobilized their armor. They took heavy casualties from mortar and MG emplacements, too. Some even blamed the Army command.
The siege of the town? My notes suggest it lasted for 2 weeks. How could that be?
Divine intervention.
Pardon me?
No, just the weather got in their way. Weeks of thick cloud cover blanketed the town.
I'm still not sure I follow.
It prevented the Army from calling in CAS. Soon as that cleared, though, well, you know about the cluster strike.
Epa. No veo más minas.
I've been meaning to ask, after NATO pulled out, when CSAT stepped in, how did that affect your work?
Day to day? I mean, Coinop stepped up, but honestly, things are already sliding that way, even with NATO at the helm. For the most part, CSAT were mindful of our activities. Brutal, no doubt, but at least clinical. Whole thing felt like one big PR exercise for them.
Una mina.
Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't IDAP and NATO share some common goals? The training, for example. The laws of armed conflict?
Sorta. It's a tough one, actually. It was important we didn't overstep the mark.
You had to be impartial.
Precisely. In a conflict, we have to remain neutral, a partner to all parties, even those that, personally, we may object to.
You mentioned that IDAP worked with a local mechanic. How did that come about?
Hollywood might call it serendipity, but I don't know. He just saved our ass one time, and then another, and so the story goes. There wasn't much special about his setup, but guy knew the difference between a crankshaft and a tire iron.
He was good at what he did then?
There wasn't much he couldn't fix. Never asked for a receipt, though, if you know what I mean.
Mira. No había que pagar. Ahí.
Special type, too. Very distinctive.
Remnants of the firefight. The one you've been telling me about.
That's right.
And Alexis. He'd been there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just met a guy claiming to have known him.
So, this firefight, it was... Just let me check the calendar.
Hace
8
8
days ago?
Yeah.
días.
Day of the NATO invasion.
Un poco más de una semana. Día más.
After the flashpoint on Stratus, there was chaos. Nobody seemed to know what to do. Finally, NATO got their act together, launched an assault on the Altus mainland.
And CSAT?
Hostia.
Caught off guard by the whole thing. They were there to fight guerrillas, not start World War III. So when CSAT dropped their support, government forces panicked. They were on the back foot. Needed to regroup. Major Gavras was put in charge, but it was a tall order. Gavras tried to fortify their position in the northwest, but it was a risk, and he ended up cut off. The guerrillas, they didn't hesitate, stormed its position, sent the survivors running.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, how did you come to hear this?
Porque yo
Costas
conocía al comandante.
Dimitriou, a lieutenant, and the major's adjutant. Along with Gavras, the two of them were trying to make it to a helivac.
Vamos, vamos, tenemos que llegar, helicóptero. Teniente, nos quedamos aquí.
Move 200 meters. Front.
Ah,
Rifleman, 200 meters front.
ese helicóptero me suena. Perdón, metagaming. Vamos, teniente. No nos van a esperar todo el día.
You say they were trying to make it.
Mm-hmm. NATO took it out.
How?
¡No! ¡Nos abandonan! ¡Al suelo! Ah.
Fast mover 200
Tank
meters.
buster.
Right.
At that point, they had air supremacy. Caught it on the hop.
Did they have another plan?
Hay que
Not
revisar
exactly,
si hay
but they
heridos.
decided to make a stand at the church.
Mierda, helicóptero.
Move 200 meters. Front.
Comandante, venga.
And the Major? What sort of a man was he? Was he respected?
Yeah, I mean, his reputation wasn't bloodied in the Civil War. Gavras was his own man, knew when to follow orders and when to
Maldita sea.
adapt them.
Not the type to violate LOAC, then.
Well, that's a gray area.
Comandante, tenemos un H atrás.
I see movement. Helicopter 400 meters. Bearing
Sí
315.
sé, lo que le acabo de decir. En la iglesia no nos buscarán.
In the course of the firefight, the Major used a mine dispenser. You can think of it like a portable minefield. This thing throws 14 mines as much as 50 feet, spread out across a wide arc of fire in front of it.
And they're designed to maim rather than kill.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. They can still be lethal. The Major ordered Costas to place mines too.
Vale, no tengo.
Alexis, alongside a bunch of guerrillas, they were approaching from the north. At the same time, a NATO squad was moving in on their position. They'd been outnumbered 10-1. Like it or not, these mines represented their best, maybe only way. To activate the mine dispenser, they could either set a timer or trigger it remotely.
Vale, activado. Ah, tengo otro.
They scattered the mines and sat tight, waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
Creo que aquí estamos a salvo, ¿eh?
Clear.
Sí, yo también lo creo. Me gusta tu mira, comandante. Joder. Tenemos cargadores vacíos. Ahí viene.
Watch the frag!
¡Ah! Comandante, ¿está bien?
Dimitiero, attack that rifleman. Contact man. Contact machine gunner.
Los veo, los veo. Parece que las minas funcionan, pero no lo retendrán todo el tiempo. Alguno cruzará.
Contact rifleman. He's down. Front. Contact man. Contact machine gunner.
And Alexis, he took part in the fighting.
Yep, he'd been in the thick of it.
Grenade!
¡Al suelo! ¡Aguante! ¡Ah!
Contact man.
¡Ay! No, no me jodas, macho. No. Me ha disparado el comandante. Comandante, necesitaba munición.
The graveyard, it would have made for quite a kill zone.
Helicopter, 1.5 clicks. West.
They scattered the mines and sat tight, waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
A ver cómo va esto.
Area clear.
Eso puede ser que sea un problema. Mejor me pongo aquí. Uno menos. Comandante de esta, dudo que salgamos.
Dimitiero, engage that man. Contact rifleman.
¿No vais a poder con nosotros?
Contact sniper.
¡Ah!
Grenade.
¡Me cago en la puta!
Contact rifleman. Incoming
¡No!
threat.
¡La veo! ¡Ah! ¡No! La has colado muy bien. ¡Hijo de puta! Está la cosa complicada, ¿eh?
I guess it made sense for him to target the point of entry, choke points, you know.
Helicopter, 1.5 clicks. West.
They scattered the mines and sat tight, waiting for the enemy. Facing those kind of odds, it was the only thing they could do.
Vamos a ver ahora. Cabrón, me ha tirado la puta granada ahí.
Area clear.
Están llegando, comandante. ¿Qué hacemos?
Enemy! Front! Contact man! Rifleman, 75 meters, back! Soldier, 100 meters, back!
But Demetriou, he didn't remember exactly what happened.
To Alexis?
Right. He didn't give any details.
Estamos jodidos, comandante. ¿Alguna idea? ¿Tenemos apoyo? Serán refuerzos, ¿no? Madre mía. Parece que las minas funcionan.
Contact soldier! Contact soldier! Dimitiero! Engage that man, just up ahead!
¡Ah! ¡Qué cabrón! No aguantaremos eternamente, ¿eh? Tenemos que salir de aquí. Te cargo. Rojo. Verde.
Finally, a message came. Second helo was inbound.
They dispatched another.
Yeah, it was a risk, sure, but government forces were in free fall and the major was important. They just had to get to a different LZ before
Déjame guardar.
and cut them off.
Hay que moverse, comandante. Ah, no, buen ver eco. ¿Aquí para allá?
Contact! Medic!
Torre de morfina. Pensaba que era un cadáver. Hay que salir de aquí. Cuidado con las minas. Ay. Hay un montón de minas.
Dimitiero, engage that machine gunner.
¿La OTAN?
Contact, medic. Dimitiero, engage that man.
¡Ay! Hasta la polla de las minas.
Dimitiero, engage that machine gunner just up ahead. Contact rifleman. Contact, medic.
Oh, me cago en Déu. ¡Ah!
Dimitiero, engage that machine gunner.
¡Tu puta madre! No, espérate.
Contact, medic.
¿Y qué hago? ¿Cómo salgo yo de aquí? No hay una mina. Y hay muchas. Ay, Dios. Ahí tenemos otro.
Dimitiero, engage that man.
Y mi tele no puedo hacer más.
Contact, man. Clear.
Quiero al noreste, ¿no?
Spotted a mine.
Vámonos, comandante.
Talk to me about the Major. What happened when he returned? Did he survive the war?
Yeah, he did. He's pretty much the reason NATO's invasion lasted 3 days instead of 1. You heard about the fierce fighting at Kalikori, right?
Yes, a colleague of mine covered that, actually.
Well, that was Gavras. He held the line till the government capitulated. And now, actually, he's involved in the peace process.
Vamos, comandante.
Return to formation.
Sí, hombre. Vete para acá, tú.
Dimitiero, board that vehicle.
No, cuidado con los César. ¿Quién es ese? Parece un piloto. Vamos, aterrice. Entramos.
And Costas, how did your paths cross? I'm still a little unclear.
Oh, Lieutenant Dimitriou. He came to IDAP, to our camp. The AAF provided us with information on the mines. Guy was a wreck, but his training had kicked in. He documented the minefields, well, as best he could. But for Marcos, it was already too late. He'd already found one, poor bastard.
And the wounded? Did Costas have anything to say about them?
Off the record?
Pen's leaving paper.
His name's come up in connection to a war crime. There's allegations he carried out a summary execution.
Okay. You've mentioned Alexis was with the guerrillas. Do you know what became of him?
He was killed. Andy, my colleague here, he said a NATO response team found his body. Apparently it looked like an execution. I don't know. The whole thing's a mess, but, maybe it's something you'd want to follow up on?
Un par de cabras.
Honestly, Nathan, all this information, it's a godsend. You've given me loads to work with here.
It's nothing, really.
Now, there's just one last question I'd like to ask you. It's subjective, so take your time.
Sure. Fire away.
In your opinion, who's most to blame for all the suffering in Orio Castro? NATO? The guerrillas? CSAT? The Altis Armed Forces? Or, I don't know, something else?
Uf. Sí, yo creo que...
I'd have to say, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think it's quite so black and white. It's more black and gray. Hell, gray and gray, you know? No one side can be held accountable for the bloodshed here. No one action got us where we are now. I don't know. What can we do? Just double down on our efforts. Heal the wounds. And the folks here in Orio Castro, they're the ones that have suffered. This is the reality. This is war.
This is war. La OTAN se metió a apoyar al gobierno, en teoría, ¿no? Y los guerrilleros... Bueno, la OTAN se puso en contra de la CISAT y del gobierno. Bueno, la otra se puso en contra de todos, creo, ¿no? No me he enterado muy bien. La CISAT vino ahí para apoyar al gobierno, en teoría, de Altis, y los guerrilleros pues querían un golpe de estado.
Not USMC.
Marine Corps.
Es que hubo una pelea ahí, lo que dice, al final. Y pues eso.
And our angle?
Last paragraph. I moved it down a bit. Figured you'd want to conclude on that.
No sword of Damocles, please. Remember, we're creating a
Todos
state,
pusieron.
defining the boundaries. Let
Bueno, esta es la historia. Y hasta aquí nos quedamos. Así que, chao.